this kind of freeform music was first introduced to me, wow, over 15 years ago now, when a friend of mine, we were, you know, let's just say we're enjoying some substances and having a very relaxing evening, and he introduced me to a little album with a strange cartoon artwork on it called Suspended Animation.
Oh,
And
wow. Yeah.
my musical lexicon, like just I was exposed to an entirely new genre of music. And so
Well,
yeah,
I think it's important to note that that music, FANTOMAS, is highly meticulously composed. There's no improvisation in that, which a lot of people would ask us. After we played it, ask us if we were improvising, and Buzz used to say, "Man, if I could improvise like that, I'd be a millionaire."
yeah, man. I interviewed Dave Lombardo, and he was saying that for an album that sounds so kind of so loose, every he was literally going through with pattern, and like every single cymbal hit was
Yeah,
analyzed and scrutinized and stuff. And
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there was no room for creativity, but
yeah,
that was Patton's project. That's essentially what we signed up for. He had this idea for these hyper specific pieces, and he doesn't read or write music himself, so he had to explain it to us like orally and orally. He made demo tapes, and we had to learn the stuff, and then he would say, no, it's supposed to be this, and it was a difficult process actually, because if something's off by a 16th note and you don't know how to say that, it takes a while to figure it out.
so Deliriant Modifier, how we were just talking to Sally about how this was a largely improvised record. How did you guys record this?
uh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we did this over, I think, 2 days in the studio with Colin Marston. And essentially, like, we just initially, like, went for it, like, just played free. And then, like I was talking about earlier, we started introducing these, like, limitations and cues and just things to kind of guide the recording. And then afterwards, we kind of, like, went through, edited it, chopped it down, did a little bit of arranging. Like, there was one piece called Nobody and Nothing that Trevor really sort of hands in. But yeah, maybe speak about that, Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, it was essentially recorded live. We were all Sally and Greg were in the main room, and I was in an ISO booth, and yeah, we just kind of went for it. We'd played as a trio a couple times before, right?
Yeah, we had like one gig, and then we had maybe 2 sessions at Greg's studio. Just
Right, right. Yeah. So yeah, then we just decided, instead of being completely free, which is one way to do that, we kind of felt like we exhausted that, and then we actually set a timer a few times. I don't know if this is giving away a trade secret, but we actually would set a timer and be like, okay, we're going to improvise for 2 minutes and 37 seconds, and we'd each take turns, just kind of picking a time, let's do some really short ones, let's do some longer ones, and it really doing that, knowing there's a end point, but you're not totally aware of where it is interesting. It affects how you play in some way. I'm not really sure how, but maybe it makes you think about, like, you don't have to worry about it meandering for too long. There's going to be a point where it ends, even if that means abruptly. So yeah, sometimes just having, like Sally was saying, just having a simple limitation like that can really affect what happens to the music.
Did you find when you were laying this stuff down, were there many times where you would go over what you had created and then go, let's take another run at this bit, that bit? Like, how much was it segments of it kind of pieced together, or was it more just viewed as a whole?
I think we did that a little bit, right? We would listen back to stuff and be like, oh, that had, it was starting to get really heavy, but then it kind of petered out for some reason. Let's go in there and do a piece that's just like, balls to the wall. Well, for a couple of us anyway. So, and just like just go for it, and with that in mind, because it sounded good doing it that way.
Yeah. What I understand that the artwork was a collaboration between the two of you. How can you guys tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, I sort of feel like that was created in a similar way to the music, just like on my end anyway, like just sort of starting intuitively and kind of thinking like in shapes and patterns and textures. So I guess like I started with the base layers and then passed it to Trevor to do the collage, and then sort of went back and forth a couple of times and um, just sort of like refined it and perfected together. So
Yeah. Was this done in Photoshop, like kicking a PSD back between the two of you, or?
No, all analog. Paint, Sally painted on a canvas, and then she gave the canvas to me, and I did paper, cut out paper collage. And then I had some ideas. I'm like, oh, maybe if I put something here, you could paint over it a little bit, I guess Sally was saying her, it was, you kind of had a general idea, but it was pretty intuitive once you started painting. Right. So, it was same with me. I'm like, I kind of messed around with stuff until I found things that worked. And then kind of went from there and just kind of let it take its own course. Sometimes with that kind of stuff, you just, there's not a ton of control. You can decide what you don't want to do, but when something works, you're not really sure why or how that happened. It just happened. Just the particular things that I picked out for the collage, just, some worked and some didn't. If they didn't work, I just tossed them. And yeah, I guess the music was similar that way. If it didn't work, we just tossed it.
yeah. Yeah, and there's sort of like a similarity with finishing things like in music and art. It's like it just gets to a certain point and you feel that it's done. Like, because I definitely had points just with the painting on this. I'm like, it doesn't feel right. Like it needs something else. It needs this, and like it just kind of tells you when it's finished.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
that's the problem. I paint myself, and I find myself I'll be it's only in the last year or so that I've actually hung pieces up around my house, and I'll be walking past them, and I'm still looking at them, going, "It's not done yet." What so I understand just a bit of just one question first. How are you guys crediting this? Is it written as like Gates done? I've seen it written, it's just a Sally Gates, or as I've seen it written with the three of your surnames. How is this, like, how are you crediting this release, I guess?
I guess it's all three of us. Like it's just Gates Dunn Fox is
Hmm.
basically the same name. So it's I feel like it's pretty equal collaborative effort.
No, good, good. I was just purely because, when I come to start distributing this, and I was like, I don't want to piss anyone off by writing it down the wrong way. So excellent. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah.
I, you know, I can say that Sally instigated the whole thing. She put the group together and instigated the recording, and in a way, it's kind of like her trio, but the music was, since it's all improvised, we're all, for instance, we're splitting the publishing three ways. The writing credits.
Mhm.
Um, because that was all equal.
Yeah. I understand this is being limited to 300. What what's the thought process behind that? Was there the option to go bigger, or did you want to kind of keep it smaller? What was the thought process?
Well, we're putting this out on Riverworm Records, which is my label that I started during the pandemic because it seemed like the perfect time to start a record label. Um, and it's a very, it's a very DIY, low key label. There's no distribution, it's basically, we rely on social media and Bandcamp, and in my experience, this kind of music, improvised music, it doesn't sell a lot, and I have plenty of CDs I've made in the past that I still have boxes, left over. And my goal with this label is to like get rid of everything, if people, I mean, there's digital versions you can get. So in essence, it's unlimited, but in terms of like the physical thing that, I mean, I'm already turning into a label guy that's like got boxes of records at his house, and I don't have a ton of space. So, I'm more interested in getting rid of everything. If I sell every single record, if there, if there's a demand for more, maybe we'll print more, but I'm just trying to be realistic about it. I'd rather put it out there and each record gets, its place where it's supposed to go, and that's it.
Hmm. If money or practicality wasn't a barrier, what would you guys most like to do creatively?
It's a big question.
Yeah, I'm like, for example, I don't know, if I gave you $5 million and said do whatever you want creatively, and you were like, excellent, I'm going to get the Boston Philharmonic. I don't know, like what are some ideas that you kind of wish you could do if you had that kind of unlimited scope and budget?
That sounds like a good idea to me. I mean, I would probably stop touring, because I'm not really a big fan of traveling in general. Um, but yeah, I would probably lock myself in my room and write a bunch of impossible music for large ensembles, that I can't afford to pay. So, and although I might need more than 5 million, to be honest.
True. All right. We'll up it. We'll go 10. I'm a generous. I'm a very generous man when it's made up money that isn't mine.
Yeah. It's funny.
Who
I
are
sort of
yeah.
do the opposite. Like, the first thing that comes to mind is just like traveling, like touring and playing music with whoever the fuck I wanted to, wherever the fuck. Like, that's, yeah. And then I would lock myself in my room and paint and compose and yeah.
I feel like the pandemic was an interesting time, wasn't it? Because it was, yes, you had obviously the downside was we couldn't go to shows, we couldn't, so and there was a while there where we were like, shit, are we ever going to be able to gather and watch music again? But on the flip side of that, people who are naturally introverted, particularly creative people, it was this, we're still dealing with the creative boom that happened during 2020 because so many people all of a sudden had nothing to do but write and create. How was that experience for both of you? Did you get a lot done?
I feel initially, I mean, I had projects that I was working on. Like, I had a painting commission and some, like, a music commission as well. But I feel like my own work, I just really kind of felt creatively numb. Like it, and a lot of other musicians and friends that I talked to sort of had similar feelings, and because there was like this weird pressure, like, oh, we finally have all this time now, we should be making things, but then just being, like so isolated and insular, it wasn't exactly like conducive to creativity or any kind of inspiration. Like, you need to be interacting with people and playing with other people and having these life experiences to produce things that are, like notable, I guess, or meaningful. Um, so I don't know, it was just like a weird headspace. And then this was actually one of the first projects I did coming out of that, where I was playing with other people. And initially, like, I think we were talking about recording like February 2021, and I just didn't feel ready. Like, I didn't feel like I was back, and it took me like a few months to get to that point where I was like, okay, now we can go into the studio, I feel like myself again. um,
Yeah, it took me a long time to, um, start putting energy into music. It kind of felt like, what's the point in a way? The world's ending. Like, why do I need to practice anymore? In retrospect, I kind of regret not practicing more. It's like, God, I had all day. I could have been regimented and got up at 9 o'clock every day and practiced for 8 hours, and then had the rest of the night to do whatever. But I mean, it was just um, I mean, that's in retrospect, of course. In the moment, you've got these feelings of like dread and isolation, and I just remember sitting here in this chair, looking out the window, and like there's nothing happening. Like there's no traffic, there's no sound. I'm like, what the? All I could hear was like sirens and ambulance, helicopters and ambulances. So, it would, which is yeah, it's not the most inspirational situation to be in.
I just love that. I know I'm talking to a musician when someone says, I'm going to be really regimented. I'm going to get up at 9 o'clock.
Oh yeah, that's early, man. That's really early.
Who are, for both of you, who are some of your creative idols? Who are some people who you just look up to and you've maybe, they've had a huge influence in either what they create or the way they create it?
Like colleagues, you mean, or just like people that
I
we?
mean, for example, someone that you've worked with a lot, a lot of people mention someone like Mike Patton, you know,
Mhm.
so people like that. Who's your Mike? You know what I mean? And
Well, I think it might seem kind of obvious. John Zorn has been, was a mentor of mine at an early age, and he was also the thing about him. He was very encouraging, and I met him when I was like 23, and he was immediately, you know, encouraging and started asking me, hiring me for gigs, basically, and encouraged me to move to New York. And he's like 70 years old now, and he's still got this ton of energy, and he's constantly producing and doing gigs and stuff. Um, I mean, he and I have different methods of working musically and professionally, I guess, but at the same time, it's still amazing to see him with that energy and that commitment to the music.
his discordant saxophone screeching was almost blowing my eardrums out last week when I saw Napalm Death. And they played the song Everyday Pox, which has his painkiller style. Just
Yeah,
he's an amazing man.
yeah. And also, extremely open minded. He's encyclopedic with his knowledge about music. I mean, some other people that come to mind like that are Craig Taborn, for instance, a piano player here in New York, who you could talk to him about Per Ubu or Alan Holdsworth or Bill Evans or it doesn't matter any genre he'll go off on details that you didn't even know existed. It's amazing. Like he's always been voracious. He's always had a voracious appetite for music, and I love seeing that in people.
What about you, Sally?
Yeah, I guess like Zorn's a big one for me too. I mean, even just first being introduced to his music, it was really eye-opening because you kind of realize that like anything's possible and you can do whatever you want and make it work, which was really helpful to me when I was first trying to write my own music because I sort of felt like I don't know, like I sort of encountered a lot of resistance from people that I played with before, like trying to tell me everything had to be in 4/4, you had to do things a certain way, and then coming into these other musicians, I'm just like, well, shit, I can do whatever the fuck I want and it can work if you can, just get your vision across. Um, so even, I mean, like last week, we even went up to see one of Zorn's performances for his 70th, and he had this like mini opera he had written that was based on data, like surrealists, and it was just crazy. I mean, he even had like a prop, like a door that he would slam, and or like they were miking up like the tiniest sounds, like somebody cutting paper, and so it's just incredible to see things like that, and it really sort of expands your mind in terms of what you realize you can do. And other than that, I mean, like actually, like Trey, like Secret Chiefs, like I really love that band as a model for instrumental music. Because it's just like incredible the way he uses like counterpoint and different rhythms, and so it's something like I'm just kind of like fascinated by his songwriting. Like I try to emulate that a little bit.
Yeah. So what does the what we're in what are we in? It's September now. What are the what's the rest of the year looking like for the two of you? What can you see yourselves doing?
I'm booked through the end of 2024. Well, the rest of the year I have this month, or October, it was pretty mellow for me. I'm home all month, and I have a few local gigs doing this record release show with Sally, and her band Titan Tachyons is playing. Are we playing this month? Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
And in December, I'm going to South America. I can't really. It hasn't been announced yet, so I guess I can't really say anything about it. But yeah, Mr. Bungle has been pretty active again. So next year we're going to go. It looks like we're going to go to Australia and Europe a couple of times. Maybe Sally and I are both playing Big Ears, the festival in Knoxville next March with our respective bands, leading our own bands there, which is really cool. Yeah, just you know, various a lot of different things.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got like a bunch of shows here in town, like Trevor was saying, Titan Tachyons are playing next month, and then we have our release show. I also have a group with Zoe Amber and Brian Chase, like we're playing on the 11th. Um, there's a couple other things. I have a duo with Elliot Sharp where we're just improvising later in the month. And then we also have a show November with Ulcerate, so it's like my fellow Kiwis that so I'm excited about that. And I think maybe one or two other things that haven't been announced yet as well. And then yeah, like Trevor was saying, we're playing Big Airs, so kind of like working on maybe doing some dates around that. And other than that, just trying to write music really.
I must admit, I have spent a good part of this interview trying to place your accent, so I'm glad you
Yeah.
I'm glad you dropped that one in there.
It's all screwed up. She lived in Miami and New York, so she doesn't know what her accent is.
Yeah. Yeah, like I go home and everyone's like, "Where are you from?"